He said, an astounding and horrible matter has come to the land. The prophets have prophesied falsely, and the priests rule by their own hand, and my people have loved it so. And what are you going to do at the end of it? In other words, what are you going to do now? I mean, if that's what you got, what do you have? The prophets have prophesied falsely. Okay, so let's remember what prophecy is. Prophecy is speaking the word of Yahweh with authority. It's inspired speech. Okay, it's not necessarily just speaking the future or other things that we may think it is. It's speaking the word of Yahweh with authority. And so it says here, the people claiming to be prophets have not properly spoken the word of Yahweh with authority. They falsely said that Yahweh said something when Yahweh hadn't said it. And the priests rule by their own hand. In other words, these are not his priests. And these are guys who are just doing what they want to do. He says, and the people, he goes, my people have loved it so. Because of a problem called pandering. The priests, the leadership were all pandering to the people. They wanted the people to love them. I'll tell you one thing, and maybe this will be taken the right way. I don't want you to love me. I want you to love him. See, the priests missed that point. They wanted people to love them. Now, I would like you to love me, don't get me wrong, but I want you to love him. My whole point is to have you love him. And these priests, he says, and my people loved it so. Why? Because the priests were pandering to them, and so the people loved it. We love you, priests. What a wonderful priest. You say all the things we want to hear. That's how you fill a stadium, and you call yourself, a minister of Yahweh, and you have this big giant stadium full of people in Texas. Mr. Olstein. Because all he does is tickle everybody's ears. Boy, if you want to feel good, listen to his show. You'll feel good. He will only tell you stuff that you can do it. He loves you. He's just going to, you know what? You can get any motivational speaker to do the same stuff. You can do it. If you want a rah-rah cheerleader, he's your guy. Is that going to help you at all in your life? Not the slightest bit. But you'll be going down the hill at the same speed you were before, but you can have a smile on your face thinking that it's all good. Because he's pumped you up. He's pumped you up. And that's what was happening here. He says, look, the prophets have prophesied falsely. He said, but my people love it so. They love it so. Ezekiel 22, in verse 25, it says, it's a conspiracy of her prophets in her midst. This is in Ezekiel 22:25. Like a roaring lion tearing the prey, they've devoured life. They've taken wealth, precious matters. They've made many widows in their midst. And her priests have done violence to my teaching. Okay, so who's priests? Well, these are people that still claim to be priests of Yah. But what have they done? They've done violence to my teaching. Wow, he didn't just say they taught it falsely. They've done violence to it. Today, is there anything more violent than the church telling you it was all done away with? That's about as violent as you can get. They've done away with it. What could be more violent to his teaching than just doing away with it? He says that they profane my set-apart matters. When you claim Sunday's the Sabbath, that's profaning something that he's set apart. When you claim Christmas and Easter are holy days, that's profaning something that he's set apart. Because you're claiming it's his when it's not. They have not distinguished between the kadosh and the profane, the set apart and the profane, nor have they known the difference between the unclean and the clean, the tameh and the tahor. And they have hidden their eyes from my Sabbaths, plural, because you have the annual Sabbaths as well as the weekly Sabbath. And I am profaned in their midst. Her leaders in her midst are like wolves tearing the prey to shed blood, to destroy lives, to get greedy gain. And her prophets have coated them with whitewash. This is it. They're tickling all those ears, making them all feel good, saying, seeing a false vision, divining a lie for them, saying, thus said the Master Yahweh, when Yahweh hadn't spoken. And the key is that thus said the Master Yahweh is saying what the people wanted to hear. By the way, we see that in Yirmiyahu. There's a so-called prophet stands up and tells the king, don't listen to Jeremiah. Everything's going to be fine. And Jeremiah says, a year from now, you're going to be dead for doing that. Because you dared to break. That's what Ezekiel's talking about, the same thing. So clearly what was going on in Jeremiah's time is no different in Ezekiel's time. They're still doing the same thing. He's saying, look, they're saying, thus said Yahweh, when Yahweh hadn't said. How many people tomorrow, on Sunday, on your cable television, in their churches, are going to say, the Lord told me to tell you. Are you going to hear that tomorrow? Somebody going to hear that? Okay? that he woke me up this morning and gave me a message for you. You better be real scared using those words. At least according, maybe they never read Ezekiel 22. But I've read Ezekiel 22, and you don't hear me coming up to you saying, oh, I've got a direct message for you that I need to share with you. Now, I may feel led to bring you into a teaching in the book because I feel impressed by him to read you his words and not just claim he said something to me, because that's what these people are doing. They're claiming that they got some direct revelation that's outside of the book to share with you. And so these so-called prophets have coated them, they've coated them with whitewash. In other words, they just said whatever they want to do, make it all look shiny and white and clean when it was just covering up all kinds of profanity. It's like taking a wall full of graffiti and they're just painting it over with whitewash. But really, they're just painting it over. They're not fixing it. They didn't clean it up. They didn't wash it off. And then you go forth, and guess what? It almost sounds just like Jeremiah in verse 30. He says, and I sought for a man among them who would make a wall and stand in the breach before me on behalf of the land that I should not destroy it, but I didn't find one. Isn't that the same thing we were just reading from Jeremiah? At the very beginning of that chapter, Jeremiah, we were reading that, and he says, look, hold on, I turned the page to the wrong chapter here. In chapter 5, he says, look, diligently search the streets and see if you can find one. It's the same thing, isn't it? Diligently search the streets. Well, Ezekiel's having the same problem. Yahweh's talking to Ezekiel, and Yahweh's having the same problem in Ezekiel's moments as he was in Jeremiah's moments. Nothing's changed.